What questions should you ask a seller before going on a listing appointment? Today, I'll have 5 questions that you should ask every seller before you head out to do an evaluation on their property or a listing presentation. Hey everybody, my name is Marty Clement. I've been in the real estate industry for over 15 years, and these days I mostly coach agents just like yourself that are looking to up their game and create a real estate business that they truly love having, that allows them to live the life that they truly want. So let's get right into the content. If you stick around until the end of this video, I'll have some bonus content for you on this specific topic. Now, before we get going in the questions, there's an overall theme here that I want to establish. If somebody's calling you because they want to list their property, they're obviously going to be curious about commission rates, how much you're going to be charging them. Myself, it's a very rigid rule. I do not talk about commission unless we are all the way at the end of the process. Because if you talk about commission on the first time you're on the phone with somebody and you give them an answer that they don't like, well, that just ends everything right there for you. So a good rule of thumb is avoid talking about commission every single time that it's possible, okay? So let's get right into it. You got a lead on the table. Somebody says, call me back, I want to list my house. A friend tells you, call my friend, he wants to list his house. Any type of seller leads. There's a few questions I want you to ask before heading over for the evaluation or the listing appointment. Number 1 has to be, how did you hear about us? If you don't have that information yet, if it's coming online, or if it's a lead that's coming in totally cold for you and you really don't know how they got your information, you want to ask that question. You might be surprised to find out it's your friend from high school or your uncle or your aunt that referred you out. And if you get that piece of information, you can immediately start to build rapport with that prospect, ultimately increasing the chances of you converting it into a successful transaction. All right? Super important. How did you hear about us? Number 2, when do you have to move? A lot of sellers are out there and they're excited with the new real estate prices that are out there, and they really don't have a timeline, and that's okay. But if somebody says we need to be out of this house by such and such a date because we bought another house, you can see how these questions are super powerful because they're giving you very valuable information. If they say we need to sell the house in 2 weeks, then let's get over there right now. Let's get this property on the market right away. That's an A+ seller lead if somebody says they have to go in 2 weeks, obviously. But ask those questions before going to the listing appointment. The last thing you want to do is get to the listing appointment, not have your paperwork ready when they need to sell right away, all right? Very important for you to know that. Number 3, what are your expectations on price, more or less? Now, this question might get answered by the seller prospect, or they might say, well, that's why I'm hiring you for, or that's why I'm asking you to come over for an evaluation. But sometimes sellers will say, I'm expecting anywhere from $450 to $500, and based off of your research at that time, you can, I would say that you agree with them on the phone, okay, that's fine, and then you can come to the listing appointment sort of knowing what they're expecting. Sometimes, I've been blessed to go to listing appointments where my evaluation is a lot more than what the client is expecting, and those are always fun because it's sort of like you're giving them a gift. You're saying, well, your house is actually worth more than what you thought. But sometimes, a lot of times people think that their house is worth more than it actually is. They do look online, they see what their neighbors have listed for. Sometimes they sell for a bit less than that. So the public's perception can be all over the place, and it's important for you to know what they're expecting before going to the appointment, if that's possible. Number 4, do you need to purchase a property after you sold your house? This is a great question because it could double your chances of making a transaction here, because if they're looking to sell and buy, then you can pick them up as a buyer lead. Most people don't know how the real estate industry works, and a lot of people out there don't even know that you can represent them as a buyer agent. So if somebody's calling to list their property, sometimes they'll call other listing agents to go see a property. And if you're in the real estate world, obviously, you know that you can represent them on the purchase. So at the first opportunity, ask them that question: are you looking to purchase a property? And if they say yes, then great. You've got a selling client and also a buying client. It's great news. Number 5, are you interviewing other agents? A lot of people will call one agent, and if you go on one of those listing appointments, good job. There's a good chance that you'll get that listing, obviously, if they're only interviewing people. But there's a good size of the clients out, the good portion of the clients out there that will interview more agents than one. They'll do 2 or 3 interviews. And you want to ask that question because it's been my preference, and a lot of successful agents out there say the same thing, is when they're interviewing multiple agents, you always want to ask to go last. Most people get to interviewing agents, they ask the same questions over and over again. The last agent through the door has a higher percentage chance of winning that listing because they're at the end of the process. They've seen all of the other agents before you. They've seen what this agent has to offer, and then, oh, this agent here has a flexible commission rate. And then if you're in as the last agent, they're comparing you to all those other agents. So if there's anything in your service package that isn't adequate or is sort of missing compared to the other ones, they can bring it up with you, and you can try to close on getting that listing right there at the listing table and saying, based above everything I've presented to you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, is there anything missing in my package? And then they'll say, well, this other agent here had a package with a flexible commission, or this other agent here thought that the house was worth more. You can at least talk about those objections and see if you can maybe work something out to get the listing. All right? Bonus tip here: identifying motivation for the sellers. Truly understanding why they are selling the property can make all the difference. Sometimes sellers will say, they have to be out of there because they need to be close to their children, or they want to be close to their parents, or for whatever reason. If you can get to the motivation of why they are selling, a lot of people won't be upfront with it. They won't, say it right away. But if you can get that there, if you can dig and really understand why they're selling, there's a better chance of you converting them to be your own listing, because you'll truly understand why they're making a move, and you can hit on that point. Well, since you want to be closer to your daughter in Ohio, let's sell your property here in Toronto. So you can see where that's going. It's not really a question, but it's more of an overlying theme of these types of conversation with sellers, is try to identify why they are selling, all right? And also, don't talk about commission. It's the last thing you want to talk about. Leave commission all the way at the end of your listing presentation, preferably a face-to-face conversation. Okay, there you have it. Those are the 5 questions that you should ask a seller before heading out on a listing appointment. We've got tons of great content on this channel. Just last week, we did the 5 pre-qualifying questions for any buyer before heading out to show a property or meeting a buyer for the first time. All types of other stuff on the channel for anybody that's starting out in the real estate industry or looking to grow their real estate skills. If you are not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you're enjoying this video, make sure you leave a like, and I'll see you guys next week for some more great tips.